Hello again, everyone. My name is Mark Walmsley, and I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're a growing global community of over 185,000 now across the world and across all art forms. I don't get to meet everyone, of course, but when I do, it's a pleasure. And that's absolutely the case today because Ingela Johansson has joined me for our interview. Ingela joined us as a full member recently, for which many thanks, because as a community, we're entirely member funded. We don't have any advertisers, sponsors, shareholders, grant making bodies telling us what to do, and that's the way we'd like to keep it. So, Angela, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Mark, for
This is
allowing this space. Yeah.
we're going to have some fun today. So if you're watching this, I'm going to create Angela's fantasy cultural year in a moment. But before we do that, I'd like to give Angela a chance to tell us a little bit about the work she does. She's in Karlstad, in Sweden, and I'm also quite keen to know what you consider your superpower to be and where your passions lie, both at work and when you're not working. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about you, Angela.
Wow, superpower. Wow, that's a question mark. I think that my superpower is starting to come out in how to bring out emotions on canvas, because that is what I'm really passionate about doing. Also, really finding the power in all my emotions. That's something I've been working on a lot the last 5 years. And finally, it's starting to come out onto the canvas. So that's a passion for me in reading research about emotions and in painting, so both off and in the studio. Other passions are, of course, nature and horses and travel and friends and family.
I love it. I love it. Have you got snow in Sweden where you are at the moment?
Yes, we do. And last week I was skiing. It was minus 27 on the big mountain, and everything was white. And then, as you started to look at how the sun was hitting, you could start to understand, of course, that nothing was white at the same time. But it was quite amazing being up there, freezing cold, but untouched snow. So you saw that all around you. So those
Mm.
kind of experiences I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, some artists capture snow beautifully, don't they? Are you watching the Winter Olympics?
No, not very much.
I've been
Not.
stuck to it because the ice dancing and the figure skating is performance
Wow.
art. It's
Yeah.
performance art. It's more performance art than sport, I think. And I
Yes.
love it. Brilliant.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, now tell us a little bit about the workshops that you do, because not only are you working to find the power in your emotions prompted by the therapy of creativity, you're allowing other people into that room as well, are you?
Yes, because I mean, most of my life I've been working towards creative deadlines, and we all know you when the stress comes in, creativity runs the other way, and it's really hard to finish something good in time. So I was stuck in Malaysia, out in the countryside, and I was running out of material, and I had this deadline of a very emotional illustration for a client, and I just couldn't do it. And I had 3 papers left when I said, okay, let's take a break. Took a break out in the nature, and then for some reason, I ended up meditating. And when I came back, it took me like 5 minutes to finish the whole illustration. And when I saw it, I knew this is the one. And that made me very curious. What is this connection between meditation, creativity, and the third step, reflection? To me, meditation kind of opens that door that makes flow possible. Not always, of course. Flow is not a button you can push, but it at least gives the opportunity not to create under stress, which makes all work better, and so
Mm,
also the creative
yeah.
part.
I that resonates with me because I've been told and I feel as though I have the best ideas first thing in the morning. And that's my wife and I will often sit together having a coffee, having woken up, and the conversations we have in those early hours of the day are very different from the conversations we have later in the day.
Yeah.
And because we've both rested, our brains are eager to start the day and get thinking and get going. And it's I often when I'm doing workshops myself, or I often prefer to have them as early as possible in the day because that's when I feel most creative. So I get that. That's wonderful. Now you've given me inspiration for your fantasy cultural year. Um, Wherever this appears, there'll be a profile about you with links to you and your work. But I love this connection, this triumvirate that you've created between art, um, emotion, and power. And under power, you would sit confidence and other similar
Yeah.
um, qualities. But I love the suggestion that art creates emotional and an emotional response
Mm.
from which you can become more powerful. I love that process. So we're going to, I'm going to place you somewhere in the world. Okay. And so the first question, and we've had a little think about this,
Mm.
is what's your favorite building?
What's my favorite building? So I'm painting this new series. It's going to be exhibited in Lisbon. And there's one building there is in one of the paintings that I haven't visited yet, but I want to go. And it's Angkor Wat.
How do you spell that so that I can show everybody?
Angkor. And then it's another word, and it starts with
Got it.
WAT. In
I
Vietnam.
found it.
Yeah.
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 In Cambodia.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Cambodia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just going to show everybody the your favorite building. Here we go. There it is. Look at it in all its
Yes.
splendor.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. You see the one with the tree, where the tree is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my inspiration.
Wow, that's incredible.
Mm.
That gives it a time span, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Excellent. Okay. Right. So I'd like you to imagine that you're sitting at a pavement at a cafe, a pop-up cafe in the visitor center at Angkor Wat. It's a June evening. It's 6 p.m. It's warm and sunny, and you're admiring the view. Okay. Um, and next to you is a drink. What would we find there?
It's sunset. I'm admiring the view. Oh, it's coconut water.
Lovely
Mm.
coconut water. And there is a book on the table next to you. It can be any book. It could be
Yeah.
your favorite book, a book from
Yeah.
childhood.
I
Um,
think it would be the book The Red Silk Dress, which takes place in this wonderful, part of it is from Angkor Wat, so it would be that new book. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we've got coconut water,
Mm.
Angkor Vat. Is it Vat or what?
Angkor Wat, I think. Yeah.
Angkor Wat.
Yeah.
And the book was
Dress.
the red silk dress.
Yes.
Love it. Now you've got headphones in
Okay.
and Spotify is on. What are you
Hmm.
listening to?
What am I listening to? I'm listening to this Malaysian singer called Yuma.
Yuma? Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have a listen to that.
Yeah,
So,
because she has a special song for this space that I feel works really well in this particular space. That's why because I was listening to that when I was painting this painting,
mm,
and I just love it. Forevermore is the song.
forevermore,
Mm.
Yuma.
Mm.
Excellent. Now that's a lovely scene that we've created. It's you with the coconut water, the book, Ankle Vot,
Yeah.
with the music. Beautiful. Now you've you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've just come from a meeting in Cambodia. What's the is it Phnom Penh?
Yeah.
Yeah. With a wealthy Cambodian family foundation who like to support research trips in the arts. They've got to hear about your triumvirate of art creates emotion that produces power. And they would like to hire you for a year.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And they would like you to travel the world to put together um, some research, to do some research and produce a number of things around the variety of the relationship between art and emotion in different countries and different societies around the world. In some, it'll be greater than others.
Hmm.
In the United Kingdom, we're described as culturally aware non-attenders. So we think we're cultured, but we don't go.
Right.
And that to a greater
Interesting.
or lesser extent will be around the world. So now, because it's a fantasy cultural year, I have a magic wand and a time machine at my disposal. Okay. It's extremely well paid. It's
Mhm.
first class all the way. You can go anywhere in the world you want. Friends and family can come and visit you while you're away.
Wow.
You will be doing a TED talk when you get home, you about emotion and art. You will be there's a book deal. There's a TV series, so a TV crew will follow you as you interview people. Um, you become the go-to commentator on the relationship between art and emotion. You're on morning television talking about your trip, and you get to do a global university lecture tour.
Oh gosh. Oh.
Does that sound like something you'd like to do?
Sounds like a big dream. Yeah. Or
Because you get to
yeah.
paint and you get to paint
Yeah.
and do workshops all the way through the year.
Yeah, and also interact with so many people, and it's such an interesting topic.
Yes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can ask people the question, when was the last time a piece of art or music made you cry? You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Or laugh. I mean,
or laugh, yes,
yeah.
or
Or
get
dream.
angry.
Yeah.
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 So excellent. So all you now need to do is to decide where you'd like to start. You can go anywhere in the world.
I'll start in Singapore.
In
Singapore.
Singapore.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now you're on the plane.
Hmm.
Okay. You turned left on the plane because you're traveling first class. The steward brings you some coconut water and a note from the family foundation back in Cambodia. They have a musical challenge for you.
Hmm.
If you had to listen to one artist or band or composer for a year to the exclusion of all else, who would you choose?
Gosh, this is really hard.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go with a Nodi, a classical composer.
Ian Audi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yep, my wife plays his music. Yeah,
Good.
no,
Good.
minimalist, simple, beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
great. I love that. Now, I just got to get my notes up again here. I've done this several times, but sometimes I forget. So we arrive in Singapore. The file's just opening with my notes on it. We arrive in Singapore, and a group of young artists welcome you at the airport. They whisk you into the city, and you're given a wonderful loft apartment overlooking the city. They say, right, settle down, unpack, make yourself at home. We're going to come back and take you to a dance performance and out to dinner.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, you don't have to remain in Singaporean culture because I have a magic wand and a time machine. We can travel in time. So I can put on a stage in front of you any dance performance you like, any dancers, living or not, any style, any group.
Okay,
What?
I'll go to Bali for the dance then.
Yes, we can do that. We have a helicopter and a private jet.
Yeah, and back to Singapore for food, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Balinese gamelan and dancers, perhaps.
Because so the dances they do for the tourists are actually the real spiritual dances.
Mm,
That's why I want to go there again.
right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that.
And
So,
artists in Bali love to work together with everyone.
mm, okay, great. So Balinese dancing show. Wonderful. So we've nipped back to Singapore where they have restaurants with every cuisine possible.
Yeah.
Which national, and you don't have to stay Singaporean or even Asian. What would be your choice of cuisine for the restaurant?
Okay, I'll have Persian food in Singapore.
Fantastic. How about we find a Persian Singaporean fusion restaurant?
Yes,
There
yes.
we go. Excellent. Now, we're going to buzz again to a different place in the world. Where would you like to go?
Wow. New
Anywhere
York.
at all. New York?
Hmm.
Excellent. Now, we get to New York and it's sport day. Okay. As we were discussing earlier, um, some sport is almost performance art, ice dancing,
Yeah.
dressage. We had breakdancing in the Olympics in Paris.
Lovely.
So, are you a sports fan, Angela?
Well, I would love to watch some dressage or any sport involving horses, of course.
Yes, it's a passion of yours, isn't it?
Yes.
Dressage it is.
Uh,
Any sport that happens alongside music is performance art.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Synchronized swimming,
Yeah.
ice
Yeah.
dancing, dressage has
Yeah.
music, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we'll go and watch some. It just so happens that the World Championships are on in New York.
Great.
So we got
Glad you knew that.
in my fantasy cultural year.
Yeah.
We're now going to buzz again from New York. Where are we going?
Mm, how do you say that in English? Mongoliet is what you would say in Swedish.
Mongolia.
Mongolia. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
with their lovely yurts and their
Yes.
wide open spaces.
Yes. And
Fantastic.
horses.
And horses. Yes. Excellent. So in Mongolia, I'm trying to think of the capital of Mongolia. I normally know these. Um, can't remember. We'll put it in.
Yeah.
But in Mongolia, they have a new digitally enhanced art gallery.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And you can put on some virtual reality headset and you can step into the work of a famous artist. It becomes three-dimensional. It's 360 degrees. There is sound, there is animation, and you can see in 3 dimensions what the famous artist could only show us in two. Is there a famous artist's work who you'd like to step into in those circumstances?
Yes, he's called Erro. Erro. He's an Icelandic artist.
Uh, let's have a look. Here we go. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let me show everyone. This is new to me.
He has his own museum though, Mark, so he is quite well known.
Ah, okay. Wow,
And
that
I
would be.
met him in Gothenburg.
Did you?
Yes, and I got
That.
to do some silk paintings inspired by his work. This was when I was in school.
Hmm. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a kind of pop art tribute to superheroes, isn't it? As well.
Yeah, and he has a political series, he has an art history series, and yeah, it's
But
different.
you get to step into these pictures and walk
Yeah,
around.
exactly. You really need to see. There's so much detail, so it doesn't really work on your phone. You need to see
No,
it.
that's a great choice because you can step in and walk around
Oh
and
yeah, that would
see
be so
everything.
cool. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's a great choice. Now I'm going to whisk you back to London,
Hmm.
and you and I are going out together every night of the week, and we're going to do something cultural together every night. On Monday, we're going back in time to a pop or rock concert.
Great.
Tuesday, we're going to a theatre play, and
Even
we're in
better.
London.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, we're going to a West End musical or Broadway musical.
Good.
Thursday is opera, and Friday is movies.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
And between us, we can choose what we go to see. So for Monday, is there a concert that you attended that you would dearly love to go back in time to again?
Uh, I would love to see Sting again.
There we go.
Mm.
Great choice.
But I can't. I can only listen to. I know this. I don't know how this will work, but
We can, did you see Sting live?
yes, yes.
So we'll go back to that concert.
Okay, cool.
And in a slight twist to that, is there an artist or band you could have seen, didn't, and now can't?
Wow. Hmm. Well, I have another band that I would love to see, but I now can't.
Mm-hmm.
They no longer exist, and that is In Excess. I did see them once
Mm,
in Stockholm.
bless him, Michael Hutchins.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's that would be great, wouldn't it?
yeah.
I,
Oh, that was one of my life's best.
yeah, my big regret is Bob Marley. I could have gone in 1979. I didn't, and he died
Oh,
in
yeah,
81.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, excellent. On Tuesday, then we're going to a theatre play.
Hmm.
Now we're in London, so we have Shakespeare's Globe if we
I,
wanted to.
yeah,
What theatre play would you like to go to?
on Midsummer Street.
Midsummer Night's Dream at the
Yeah,
Globe Theatre.
yeah.
That would be great. We've got the best seats.
Good.
What about a musical, Angela?
Oh, I saw Queen in London. That one was very good.
Is that We Will Rock You?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It was.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I've not seen that. I'd love to see that. But
yeah.
great. And are you an opera fan?
No, not yet. I haven't seen enough of opera so far.
So I think we'll go to the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden in London,
Cool.
and we'll go and see Tosca by Puccini. People
Nice.
often ask me what's the best introduction to opera, and I think for me that's the one.
Mm.
Now for film night, we've got a wonderful large screen cinema to go to. We've got the best seats in the house,
Mm.
wonderful sound, surround sound. What movie shall we watch?
The Green Book, I think.
The Green Book.
Mm.
Lovely. I don't think I've seen that.
Mm.
So let me just show everyone what that is. Hang on, The Green Book.
The Green Book, yeah, I think that's the title. Me
Um,
and titles, and then they always have different titles in Sweden.
oh yeah, I got it. The two lead characters.
Mm.
Yeah. Let me just show everyone so that they can see. If I check we've got the right one. There we go. That's The Green Book.
Yeah,
Oh, Viggo Mortensen, Aragorn. He was Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, wasn't
yeah.
he? Oh, that looks great. Again, I haven't seen that. I love these meetings because it gives me a whole list
Yeah,
of things to watch.
it is a good movie. It's
And
well worth seeing.
I love that. Um, excellent. And then what's next? So we've done that. So there we go. Now I'm going to send you off around the world to do this wonderful research trip with the TV crew there and everything. But before I do, we're in London. I've found a Persian Singaporean fusion restaurant in London. Okay. And you can invite one person to join you for lunch. It can be anyone you like, living or not,
Oh,
famous or otherwise.
okay. Hilma of Klint.
Klimt,
Hilma of Klint.
how can I spell that so I can show everyone?
Hilma.
Yeah,
It's AF, and then it's Klint.
Clint, not Klimt.
No,
Yeah,
not, yeah,
Hilmar af Klint.
yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Let me show everyone. Um,
Like everyone, she became very famous after, quite long after her death.
mhm. There we go.
She had a
Those are,
solo show at the Guggenheim,
there it
of
is.
course, after her death.
Yeah, there it is. And they're
Yeah.
huge. These are
And
huge.
yeah, and they are now debating if she was the first abstract artist or not.
When did she live then? So she was born
Um,
in 1862. Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Beautiful woman.
yeah, it
And she
is.
died in 44.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a great choice. Excellent. So just before we go, can we show everybody some of your work?
We could.
Instagram or website?
Let's go website, I think.
Okay, where shall I go?
Do you want? Should I put it in the chat?
If it's long, yes, that would be good. And then I can open it up so we can have a quick look at the work.
There you go. You also have some work here. Just
Oh, yes. I've seen it. I love those. I love the one that's the cover of your um the cover. I have seen some
got
of
some
this.
work
There we go.
here.
Oh, wow. There we go. Horses.
Yeah,
Let me share my screen so that we can see your website.
yeah,
There we go. So this is at artbyingelajohansson.com.
yeah,
And this is you talking about that. I love there's Vetriano around it, isn't there?
yeah, yeah,
It's fantastic. So people can come here and they can find where are we? Original paintings. There's you in your studio.
yeah. I love to paint outside and when you can in Sweden.
And
Yeah.
that's the one you've just shown
Yes,
us.
that's the one I just had behind me. Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
And the title at the corner of hope and forgotten dreams because she's very like light up and she's in the sun, but behind her is the blue and gray, and
Mm,
it's like she's standing there thinking about which way to turn, where to go
I
next.
love that.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you're often um, picturing your subjects from behind? Oh no, there we are. There's some.
But
There's
yeah,
some.
there is there's
That's.
actually a lot you can tell about how a person is feeling from how you hold your body,
Hmm.
and also a lot about how your feeling comes out
Mm.
when you look
This
at
one
it.
caught my eye when I first had a look
Yeah,
at your website.
yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
It's painted outside. Actually, the field she's standing in, I was looking at it as I was painting it.
Wow.
Yeah,
No, I love it. So if you'd like to go and have a look at some more, if you're
yeah,
watching this, then it's at artbyingelajohansson.com.
yeah.
And wherever this interview appears, Ingela, there'll be links to your work and
Great.
to your website and Instagram.
Yeah,
But there we are. That's your fantasy cultural year. It's been a nice way to pull out anecdotes and surprises and preferences. I'm with you with In Excess and Sting.
yeah.
Um,
Good, good.
and yes, there'll be a profile about you on our website. So if you're watching this, do please connect with Angela through the links that will be on this page. But for the time being, thanks again so much for being a good sport and doing this today. And thanks also for being one of our full members. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much, Angela. Have you enjoyed your fantasy year?
Yes, I can't wait to go. I'm going packing right now, and I would love to, in each of these places, get to talk to a lot of people about this connection between power, art, and emotions. Can't wait
Yeah,
to go.
I love it. Thank you once again, Angela.
Thank you, Mark.